Mash the potatoes, blend them with a couple of things, stick some agar in so that they form a jelly, and then I will cook the chops up and stick them with the pasta, and we should be pretty much done.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. So this is just getting up to temperature. Pass me the meat thermometer.
You don't need a meat thermometer for this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, okay, I'm just cooking chops, but I can tell when it's done with the meat thermometer.
Well, can't you just tell when it's done anyway? Because it like changes colour and smells nice.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't give you precision. Like, I know what it looks like on the outside, but on the middle, in the middle, I have no idea whether it's done. I have no idea what the temperature gradient's looking like. I can flip it over, repeat that, and do a lot, and get a lot more finer control with this.
I suppose so.
Well, yeah, basically, I mean, you know, I like to use science here, not guesswork.
Now, what do you think, Paul?
I've actually never used one.
Really?
No, we've got them at work, but I have staff for that.
Good lord, how have you managed to build this program and not use the meat thermometer?
Because you cook stuff and when it's done you stop cooking it.
Yeah.
You've really got to try this, seriously. It just makes it easier.
Okay.
Never let it be said that I don't move with the times. So, I decided to try out Hugh's newfangled devil contraption.
Now, what we've got is pork loin here and digital thermometer with probe, which I am told you put into the middle of the meat like that and then try and get the whole thing into the pan here. Which is, it went beep. I'm not sure it was supposed to go beep just then.
Okay, well, I'll be honest here, no matter what the results of this test are, I still think that cooking thermometers are brilliant and you should get one. The thing is that when you're cooking, you are doing chemistry, and most of the reactions that you are promoting are heat-based. Cooking is a combination of two tasks, combining flavours and textures in a way that is nice rather than terrifying, and making chemical reactions to give you new flavours and textures to play with. Now, if you were hiding in a cave planning to blow up a major government official, you wouldn't make your bomb by heating your weed killer until it looked about right. You'd check your reactions with a thermometer. But for some reason, when we're cooking, we forget that we can measure things and predict what will happen. Tough meat? Split hollandaise? You should have used a thermometer. Plus, proper instruments actually make cooking easier. With one of these things, if you're doing a roast, all you do is you shove it into the middle of the roast, you stick it in the oven, you leave it go. It's got an alarm on it so that you can actually set it to a specific temperature. For example, if I'm doing steak or lamb, I'll do 55 degrees, medium rare. Just set it to 55 degrees, stick it in, go and play World of Warcraft. When it goes beep, 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 it's done.
Right, now for pork, I am advised by science, cooking pork to medium rare is about 65 degrees. It's currently saying it's at 10 degrees and going up, and it's spitting everywhere. So I think what I do now is I sit here and wait until it makes a noise.
Not everybody has a meat thermometer, so what do you do if you don't? The Food Standards Agency say that you should serve food piping hot. They don't, however, actually bother to tell us what this means. Now, we've done extensive research into this, and what it turns out that piping hot means is Australian surfware manufacturer. Or possibly hot enough to cook meat, like, say, fingers. You've got to check if it's hot in the middle as well. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can just prod it and see how it feels, but this is an unreliable method if you're not pretty experienced at cooking meat. A better way might be to cut it open with a knife and touch it in the middle, or maybe just take a look at it and see if it's cooked. Now, some people say that you shouldn't cut your meat because it'll dry it out. Now, frankly, that's bollocks. If you don't want to cut the meat, you might want to try skewering it. Put a skewer into the meat and see what colour the juices run. If they're red or at all reddish, the meat's not cooked yet. If they're green, you should throw the meat away and then nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
A lot of this stuff you can avoid needing a thermometer by really knowing what you're doing, but even the best chefs get it wrong occasionally. And with this thing, you just actually do the chemistry by using an instrument rather than your eyes. So hollandaise, keep it between 70 and 77, it's a lot easier to make. Custard, 79 to 83. If it goes much above 83, then the proteins coagulate into curds and you get that lovely creamy scrambled egg effect. which you don't want if you're cooking creme brulee. With this, you can just stick it in there. As soon as it's starting to go to 84, take the heat off. You don't need to guess. And this is what I really love about this. It takes the guesswork out of cookery. It makes it much more precise, and you can really tell what you're going to get.
The concept is sound, but I wasn't particularly familiar with frying chunks of meat that had big lumps of metal stuck in them.
Right, the probe is actually holding the meat off the surface of the pan, which is not the best thing. Okay, I can kind of get it in if I put the steak right over at one side of the pan. We're now up to 21 degrees and rising. Now, I always used to overcook pork because I thought it was better to have a slightly dry cut of meat than get tapeworm. This was before I learned that the last recorded incidence of tapeworm in a UK pig herd was in 1978, which is before I was born.
What most people refer to as tapeworm in pork is actually Trichina spiralis. That's not a type of pasta, but in fact a nasty parasitic worm. If it infects you, it causes the unimaginatively named trichinosis, which you really don't want, largely because of the eye swelling. Cheap, crappy pork made from pigs fed on trash, and I mean actual trash, not the Daily Express, is much more vulnerable to trichina. That makes it very rare in countries with high regulatory standards like the UK, the US, and Germany. I suspect what happened is that the British and the Germans collectively wiped out tapeworm, and then the Americans took all the credit in a series of big-budget motion pictures. There are still a few cases in the US every year, but apparently most of these happen in the kind of people who kill and eat their own walrus. Concerned about worms in your pig? Call this number. Or alternatively, cook your meat to 65 degrees Celsius, or freeze it below -15 for at least 20 days. Either technique will kill the little bastards.
We're now into the 60s, and any second now it should do something. It's not doing anything. The temperature's just hit 65 and gone past it, and no alarm has gone off.
Have you turned the alarm on?
I probably didn't turn the alarm on, which might have been a good idea.
It's important to note that thermocouples conduct heat.
The probe is very hot. How do I get this out without dying? You can do that?
Mm-hmm.
You can just yank on the wall.
Not too hard.
Not too hard. I'm a lot more burned than usually happens in these kind of circumstances. But that does look like a steak that is actually done.
Alright.
So here we've got the middle bit. You see where the probe was. It is slightly pink there, that is done medium rare. Let's see what it's like.
Oh man.
That's really nice steak.
Well, it did work. It would have worked had I not done that, though.
I find it's just more precise. I'm a little overcautious, but I'm never 120% certain in my ability to go, that is done right now. And I like having the backup option of going, yeah, no, it really is.
How do you know what temperature everything is supposed to be at?
I bought the book.
You bought the book?
Or I look on the internet.
Right, so as well as owning a digital thermometer, which costs £15, you also need the internet. So what's the temperature for lamb?
55 degrees medium rare.
55 degrees medium rare. And this is just stuff that you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's only about 5 or 6 temperatures you need to memorise. Chicken, 70, unless you're feeling very, very brave. Pork, 60 if you want to do it rare. 65 if you want to be a bit more cautious because you're feeding it to your grandmother. Lamb, 55 degrees.
And on he went. So, I decided if I end up buying one of these things, and I might, anytime I want to know the correct temperatures, I'm just going to phone Hugh.
Hello? 73 degrees. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alex! Nowhere does it tell you how much water to add.